Hello everyone, welcome to a brand new episode of the Sports Insight with your host Alamdar Khan. And yes, as you know, we give you sports information from all across the globe. You guys can surely reach out to us on our social media handle, which is at the rate of Indus News Sports. That works both for Twitter and for Instagram. But anyways, we're going to start off with what's truly happening in the world of cricket. Yes, we're going to talk about obviously the major tours that we foresee right now in terms of New Zealand coming to Pakistan after so many years. Not only that, we already have information of England actually planning on touring to Pakistan. So to discuss the in-depth analysis of how things may shape up for Pakistan, we have with us Ali Mehdi. Ali, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So Ali, I'll start off with the journey of Pakistan cricket or PCB itself. Having a touring country like obviously the Kiwis coming over to Pakistan to begin with, I think it would be like very interesting to see them performing, because the last that they went after, having so many series hosted at their place in New Zealand, after that they went to England. But now we have the opportunity of hosting them, and not only them, we have opportunity of hosting England. So how do you see that development in terms of the world of cricket for us?
I think it's a monumental achievement for the Pakistan Cricket Board. For them to actually get New Zealand cricket team to come to Pakistan speaks volumes for itself. Look, New Zealand hasn't come to Pakistan since 2003. This is 18 after 18 years they're coming to Pakistan.
Right.
And if you look at the track, you look at history, New Zealand has always had a competitive series against Pakistan in Pakistan. Right. Ever since then, because of safety reasons or other reasons, respectively, Pakistan has actually gone to New Zealand. They've done well at times, they haven't. But, this has been a series which has been, on the boil for a very long time. It was bound to happen. And you have to give a lot of credit to Pakistan Cricket Board because they have worked extremely hard, taken it step by step, getting the likes of Sri Lanka. The best thing about them is that they've taken it a step by step approach. They first got Bangladesh to come, Sri Lanka to come, then South Africa earlier this year. And now they're building upon the fact that New Zealand and the likes of England are going to come through. I mean, I'm extremely excited. It's going to be an extremely good series. 5 T20s being played in Rawalpindi, being played in Lahore, which starts off with a 3-match ODI series against Rawalpindi cricket at European Cricket Stadium. I think the whole country itself and the whole cricketing fraternity are very excited about the series, which will be very fought, very competitively between both
teams. So Ali, I mean, we all are excited, but ultimately, if we look into all these series coming over to the world of Pakistan, of course, we're happy in terms of hosting, and I think it's a major round of applause for obviously PCB managing that and having those big countries, big names into our country and having them play the series in our hometown. But my question is, ultimately, the whole goal of our teams or all the teams right now is we're looking and everybody's focused on the WT20 World Cup, which surely is going to be the major thing that we know we're looking at Oman and the UAE. So do you think in terms of how Pakistan is right now, in terms of batting lineup, we still have issues, but I would rather want to have your updates and analysis in terms of, do you think the team is ready to be out there?
Well, that's a very good question, Alamdar. Right now, looking at that World T20 World Cup, which is going to be taking place in UAE Oman in the later part of this year, from October to November. Look, a World T20 World Cup taking place after 5.5 years. That's incredible how long it's taking. After how long it's taking place. Last one in India in early 2016. But the fact of the matter is, if you look at Pakistan right now, Pakistan actually had fought a very competitive series. Unfortunately, lost to England in a very close fought series. And then, there's the real rain-marred series against West Indies where Pakistan had with 1-0. I still think it's too early to assess Pakistan's chances into that because Pakistan, like you mentioned, has problems, on both their fronts, whether it's the batting and the bowling front. The bowling isn't looking as good as it was previously, but more importantly, it's the batting. The batting needs to be more consistent. We don't know our middle order, other than like the Babar Azam and Rizwan at the top. We don't have any settled middle order. So Pakistan needs to figure that out quickly. They need to perform very well in 2 series against New Zealand and England so we can find a best combination. I still don't think that the PCB, the management and the team knows their best 11. And they need to do that quickly because once, the World T20 happens, you have to figure this out 1 or 2 months before so that, you can build up some momentum going into that World T20 World.
Right. And to be very honest, Ali, I'm absolutely with you in terms of the momentum because, now is the time. It's either now or never because all the teams actually prepare themselves for this big moment, be it the T20 World Cup or the ODI World Cup, or we talk about, all the test matches and stuff. The thing is, it's now or never. My question is still obviously one of the biggest questions that I always ask everyone because ultimately we love the idea of the top order, but when we come to the middle order, we have so many hiccups, we have so many collateral damage because one individual breaks down and the entire team does. But if we look into right now, if we talk about Bangladesh versus Australia, there are a lot of people who'd come up to me saying that Australia's team was not as the spot on team because they had so many people not playing. But my question mark is Bangladesh, I think, being the underdogs, I think they're spot on. And I'd rather want to have your take on that. And then switching over to how Shakibul Hassan is like a big name, but that one individual has actually managed to change the entire perception of how we see Bangladesh.
I thought that was an extremely good series. It was a very good series for the neutral and the whole cricketing fraternity. The Bangladesh versus Australia series. Going into the series, people were saying that Australia actually might compete against the Bangladeshis, but I saw it otherwise, and that's what exactly happened. Bangladesh actually beating Australia very quite comfortably 4-1, and there's a reason for that. Look, they have a very settled team. They are dark horses going into that World Cup in the UAE, Oman. You have to be a realist over here. They were extremely good, and like you mentioned right now, Shakib Al Hasan has completely changed the dynamic. He's been brilliant. He's gotten 100 plus T20 wickets, international wickets. They have a settled team. They're doing very well. They're playing in home conditions. When they play on subcontinental track, they have an extremely good spin attack, very underrated. They have good bowlers and they have good batsmen too in the form of Shakib, Mushfiqur, Mahmudullah, the captain too. So, I mean, you would have to say that the Bangladeshis they are much better prepared than in the likes of Pakistan. They have a settled team. And going to that T20 World Cup, they are going to be very proud of their record. And I think they're going to go with full force into that T20 World Cup and have nothing to lose.
Right, and to be very honest, before we were going on here, and we were discussing in terms of the world of cricket. Another thing that I literally noticed, and I'm sure Ali, you would also say yes to, Pakistan did manage to win one T20 against West Indies, which is we understand, thanks to the rain. To be very honest, because I think, in terms of West Indies, they have worked hard enough to where they are right now. And I think also one of the growing teams, because they also have a lot of political issues. So if we talk about Bangladesh or we talk about West Indies, they had issues and they worked on it. I still feel the agony, or I feel sad in terms of when I see Pakistan still not working on the middle order where we actually want to work on, because either we collapse on the batting side, if we good on the batting side, then we collapse on the bowling side. We need to work on this because I think it is high time.
It's extremely high time. Look, if Pakistan wants to challenge for their second World T20 trophy in the Muscat and in Oman and in the UAE, they've got to figure out these niggling problems they have, when it comes to bowling, and more rightly, as you mentioned, the middle order. The middle order is a serious problem for Pakistan at this moment of time. They don't know their best middle order. They keep on shuffling. You don't know whether say Maqsood has been given an opportunity over there. In the past, Fazil Shah, the like of Fazil Shah has been given. Mohammad Hafiz comes and goes. The problem over here is that you need to have a stable middle order. You need to have permanent members over there slotted into their right position. If you keep on tinkering at going into that World Cup too, they're not going to be settled. They think that their positions are going to be under threat too, and there's going to be no confidence over there. So they've got to find going into that series against New Zealand, make sure you stick with that middle order. You don't have much time. You have we have to look towards the future, Alamdar. Right now we have a World Cup. Stick with that middle order, whether it's coming or not, because you have to prepare. There's also World T20 World Cup next year, and it's going to take place in Australia. So if it doesn't work, then hopefully we'll be well prepared for next year too. But now they cannot experiment right now. They did it in the West Indies. They got lucky with that one T20. But I think right now
Right.
Middle order. Stick with it right now, and hopefully they'll pay huge dividends going into that World Cup.
Absolutely, Ali, and I am 110% with you in terms of how we need a consistent team. And I think the overall crux that you mentioned is something that I always talk about. But thank you once again for being a part of the show and discussing the in depth analysis of the world of cricket with us. Thank you. So yeah, that was Ali, and obviously he did mention a few things that are super interesting. Why? Because these are the things that we need to do in terms of the world of cricket, and because we have an upcoming WT20 World Cup, and I think we should be ready by now. Consistency is going to be the key. We need to work on the middle order. Let's hope we manage to do so, and ultimately we are looking for the bigger goal. But anyways, guys, what we need to do is we take a quick break. Once we get back from the break, there is more coming in from the world of sports. See you guys after the break. And yes, welcome back after the break. And yes, before the break, we were discussing what truly is happening in terms of obviously New Zealand, during Pakistan. Not only that, we also talked about England. Things are pretty tricky in terms of the world of cricket, but things are tricky in terms of what's truly happening in the world of football. And we talk about the Premier League now finally making its position and making it a go. So to discuss the in-depth analysis, we have with us Andy Jones. Andy, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. Excited to talk football.
Great. So Andy, we'll start off with Premier League finally coming to life again, and things are, so many things actually out there, in terms of if we start off from Messi, not only Messi, but there's so many upcoming things that, people have, question marks too. But, I would rather want your wisdom out there, all the viewers to truly understand where exactly is the upcoming Premier League heading.
Well, last year it was obviously won by Manchester City, and Manchester City have strengthened themselves with one player, broadly speaking, so far. That's Jack Grealish, who has moved for a record £100 million from Aston Villa.
Right.
It was expected that they'd make a major move for serial Golden Boot winner Harry Kane, who's basically the best striker in the Premier League. I think we can consider. Man City have got a Sergio Aguero-sized hole up front after Sergio Aguero has finished his contract. He's gone to Barcelona. More on Barcelona and Lionel Messi in a moment, I think. But it's been a tale of strikers in the Premier League. Harry Kane's dominated the news. He went on strike recently at Tottenham Hotspur to try and force a move through to, well, almost anybody. Tottenham Hotspur are tied into a 6-year contract, but he hasn't really won anything. He hasn't won anything at all since he's been at Tottenham, despite winning sort of several Golden Boots. He's won no team awards, no major honours. And it was very much felt that maybe this summer, finally, he would move to Man City. Manchester United were interested, I believe. Chelsea also were credited with an interest, but they have re-signed Romelu Lukaku.
Right.
He's gone for an enormous sum, around 92 million from Inter Milan. Romelu Lukaku has already had one go at Chelsea where he didn't quite break through as a younger player. He's obviously smashed in goals for West Brom, Everton, Manchester United and Inter since. And it could be a final piece of the jigsaw for Chelsea. Chelsea, of course, won the Champions League.
Right.
They're in a very bizarre position of having already won the Champions League, which feels like sort of their end of their 5-year plan in the first year of Thomas Tuchel being there. So I think very much they'll be targeting the Premier League now. They've got a wonderful defensive unit, which conceded very few goals at the back end of last year. If Lukaku comes in and scores lots of goals, they could be a real threat to Manchester City. Manchester City are really interesting because they're blessed with incredible talent, wonderful creative players, and the manager, Pep Guardiola, to put them all together. It'd be interesting to see where £100 million Jack Grealish fits in with all their other creative midfielders. And of course, they don't really have a striker.
Right.
This doesn't stop Guardiola before. He's played with that striker at Man City. He's played with that striker at Barcelona. He's played with that striker at a lot of places. But over the exhausting course of the Premier League, the Champions League, and whatever other competitions they're going to be playing in, you'd think that they would be getting a striker in to help Gabriel Jesus along at some point. And of course, we haven't even talked about Liverpool. We haven't really talked about Arsenal, who started last night already with a defeat. They played newly promoted Brentford in the first game of this Premier League season. Brentford pulled them to bits. They won 2-0. They arguably could have won more. Arsenal have failed to sign really players that will dramatically influence their position. They finished 8th the last 2 seasons in the Premier League, which is 4 places at least below where they need to be finishing. And despite signing Ben White for 50 million, who's a defender, they didn't seem to be a great deal stronger than they were last season. At this early stage, Mikel Arteta, the manager there, is already under considerable pressure.
Right. I would also want, Nate, for you to put in some information for viewers out there in terms of the biggest, situation that actually happened. We're talking about Lionel Messi, obviously, him trying to stick on to the situation in terms of Barca, but things didn't really work for him, and we had that press conference from him, and it was a pretty emotional conference, of course, and I think all the fans out there were pretty upset in terms of what he went through, and obviously the way he put it, and all the fans out there. But then him, coming to the point of signing up for PSG, and now being at PSG, obviously PSG now is going to be a complete package in terms of the superstars. But do you think, in terms of Messi's entry in the PSG, can make a bigger difference to the club itself?
I think it will make a substantial difference to PSG, both on the field and off the field. It's been an absolutely stellar summer for PSG. They've signed not only Lionel Messi, they've signed Sergio Ramos, who's been one of the best defenders in the world at Real Madrid and Spain for the last however many years. They've signed Donnarumma, who's the best goalkeeper in the world, and he's yet to really reach his peak. But talking about Lionel Messi, only a year ago he was tied to a contract at Barcelona, which meant that he had a £600 million buyout clause. Barcelona have, through catastrophic handling, allowed that contract to boil all the way down to zero. He became what's called a free agent in July. It was assumed that he would stay at Barcelona, and Barcelona, because they're £1 billion in debt, are completely unable to sign him on terms that are agreeable to the club or to Lionel Messi. They're also, I won't go through the ins and outs of all of that, but it became impossible for them to sign him. Even as recently as sort of 2 months ago, a month ago, they were saying that Messi would be staying. It was assumed that he was staying, and then suddenly there's this fateful conversation between Messi's father and Laporta, who's the chairman at Barcelona, to say he wouldn't be staying after all. PSG, who incredibly didn't win their own title last year, that was won by Lille, moved quickly to sign him, and he's now on an incredible contract. I mean, Messi was on something like £125 million a year if you throw in all his earnings and different things at Barcelona. I think now he's on about 75 million a year. It almost doesn't even matter anymore. The figures are just so incredible, and we're seeing very much. You look around the world, Barcelona are £1 billion in debt. Real Madrid have got their own financial considerations. Juve and a lot of the Italian clubs have had money problems. You also look at clubs like some of the clubs in the Premier League, they can't compete on that level either. And you look at PSG, this club who, without being disrespectful to the French League, aren't in one of the leagues that you'd consider a Champions League winner to come from, are certainly in a position where they're very much, financially at least, top dog. In terms of prestige, they're top dog to have Messi. Even a 34-year-old Messi, the shirt sales, the prestige, the focus he brings to the club. And also, they've stolen Barcelona's crown jewel. Barcelona can reasonably consider themselves the biggest club in the world, or one of the sort of 2-3 biggest clubs in the world, and they've lost that. Not only does it mean the loss of a great player, and let's face it, at 34 years old, they probably have lost him sooner rather than later, but hopefully on their own terms, and certainly not in this way of, yes, we're keeping our best player, and then the humiliation of actually he's walking away for free, the teary press conferences we saw, the protests outside the stadium. Barcelona's still in a position where they don't even know if they can sign half the players they've been linked with, and they've still got to get rid of any number of players on ludicrous contracts. There's players that they practically begged to join them a little over a year ago, players like Antoine Griezmann, that they're now offering around all over the place. It looks at very dark times for Barcelona. And the complete opposite of PSG, who are now very central to conversations about being the biggest club in Europe and dominating the Champions League. However, they've got to put it all together. And as I said, they didn't win their own championship last year, and they're yet to win the Champions League, which is something that their extremely wealthy owners have set their hearts on.
Right. My quick take with regard, obviously we're discussing the in-depth in terms of Lionel Messi moving in. We talk about Neymar already being there, like the superstar of PSG, and now it's Messi. They've already, being apart, they've already played together, and I think one of the biggest chemistry that we all know in terms of football. And we have so many followings. Even if I talk about Messi moving into PSG, the shirts actually went off online, sold £1 million within 7 minutes. So the point is, everyone has that question mark of their hero. Is Neymar and Messi going to do what PSG needs or not?
I'd certainly consider, again, no disrespect to the French league, I'd certainly consider that they'd win the French league. I certainly consider that they'll score an awful lot of goals in the French league. It's not even just Neymar and Messi. They've also got Kylian Mbappe, who's one of the best strikers in the world, and he's barely 20 years old.
True.
They've also got players like Angel Di Maria, Sergio Ramos, Donnarumma, who I've mentioned as well,
Right.
Verratti. I'd be in a position to consider that they would win that league. The Neymar and Messi played together with extravagant success at Barcelona, but it's worth mentioning that Neymar left in many ways to be a star on his own at PSG. And
Absolutely.
again, PSG taking one of Barcelona's great players in Neymar, they've now done it to them twice.
Right.
You'd consider they very much get to the latter stages of the Champions League. They don't have. I mean, Mauricio Pochettino as a manager has reached the Champions League final. He's come second in different leagues. He's very much seen as a bit of a nearly man in the sense that he's tremendously talented. He gets players playing together, and obviously he's a countryman of Lionel Messi and Angel Di Maria. But the other problem is he's a bit of a nearly man, and he really needs to nail a major honour at PSG, you think, this season, otherwise he's going to be under incredible pressure. And whilst Messi might play against Strasbourg, it's probably who they're playing this weekend in their second game in the League One. It might take Messi a little bit of time to get up to speed. The standard's not as good in France as it is in Spain, but I can't imagine Messi's had a proper pre-season. There'll be a huge amount of pressure for it to click very, very quickly, but the amount of natural talent they've got there, you'd think they'd make a success of it. Whether or not they win the Champions League this year or next year or the year after, you'd think whether it's phase one or phase two or however many phases, PSG will eventually win the Champions League. What comes after then is very difficult to know. The huge problem we've got as well is that PSG seems to be one of the only clubs in Europe with money.
Right.
And that cripples a lot of the other clubs. There's a lot of clubs like Chelsea, Man City, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Juventus, who are all keen to get rid of high earners, get rid of good players at their club who are on extravagant salaries.
Right.
And it's like, well, they can't get rid of these players anywhere. Barcelona are stuck with all of these players that they can't get rid of.
True.
And so you've got this huge logjam. And what does this mean for the transfer market around? There's probably only 3 or 4 clubs that have got really serious money.
Right.
And it becomes very, very difficult for big clubs to move on players. And I think we've seen a huge seismic moment in the global transfer market.
Right.
I think we've seen a huge seismic moment in terms of player movement.
Right.
We've seen Paul Pogba at Manchester United saying, how much he wants to leave every 5 minutes. And even though he's on a free transfer at the end of the season,
Right.
there aren't any clubs that can come forward and buy him.
But to be honest, Andy, I'm
like,
sorry to cut you, but to be very honest, in terms of, obviously, it's a big investment in terms of PSG when we talk about the movement. But, we can only hope and see, once things start rolling in, to come up to the conclusive side of did PSG make the right decision. So I would thank you for being a part of the show and discussing the in-depth analysis of what truly is running in the world of football. Thank you very much. So yes, that was the in-depth analysis from Andy, and obviously he talked so much justice to how things may shape up in terms of, obviously, when we talk about Messi and we talk about, obviously, the whole situation of Neymar Jr., because Neymar was once a part of Barcelona and he left Barcelona to make his own existence and, moving into PSG. And now we have, obviously, Neymar, besides Neymar being in, PSG, now we have Messi there. Will they manage to be where they're supposed to be? That's a big question mark, and we did discuss that. But anyways, if you guys want to reach out to us, you can on our social media handle, which is @ Indus News Sports. That works both for Twitter and Instagram. Till then, take good care of yourselves. Bye-bye.